People throw around the terms La Niña and El Nino quite a bit. That's because they're important climate patterns that impact things such as drought, hurricanes, torrential rainstorms, even the fish you eat for dinner. But what is El Nino and La Niña? We'll try to explain. First, El Nino roughly translates to little boy or a child, and it was named by South American fishermen who identified a change in the water temperatures and the types of fish they caught periodically with this temperature change. It happened most strongly around December and Christmas period, so they associated it with baby Jesus or the Christ child. So what happens during an El Nino year? Well, traditionally we have the trade winds, and they blow east to west across the Pacific. That pushes all that surface warm water closer to Indonesia and Asia. That creates thunderstorms and showers over there, and we have the traditional airflow pattern. When the trade winds slack off, all of that warm water pulls back towards the equatorial Pacific and piles up along South America. That shifts the rainstorm patterns again. We have thunderstorms, and it affects the upper air patterns. During hurricane season, that means we have more wind shear in the Atlantic and less in the Pacific. So wind shear is a hurricane killer. That's why climatologists know that during a strong El Nino year, we'll typically have fewer hurricanes in the Atlantic. El Nino is typically stronger during the winter months. The warmer Pacific waters pump energy up into the subtropical jet stream, and that changes its pattern. What it means for Florida is more storms, cloudiness, and more rainfall. That played out perfectly in 2015-2016. First, we had a super strong El Nino. We called it the Godzilla El Nino. 2015 marked the 10th year that Florida escaped a hurricane landfall. And during the winter, we had such torrential rainfall in January that it filled up Lake Okeechobee. The water managers had to send that extra water out the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie estuaries. And what that did was help create a harmful algae bloom that summer. Now that warm water on the equatorial Pacific can't stay there forever. Like a pendulum, it'll swing back and push back towards Indonesia, and we'll end up with a neutral period or a La Niña. And La Niña is an abnormal cooling of the waters in the equatorial Pacific. What that means for Florida typically is a drier, warmer winter, and it can be more accommodating to hurricanes. We saw that in 2016 when we got hit by Hermine and had a close call with Matthew. This is why La Niña and El Nino are so closely monitored by forecasters. If you want to learn more about the weather, check out my weather blog at palmbeachpost.com.